What happens when you mix cozy, whimsical, gothic, and cottagecore? I'll give you the answer. You get me. Hello bookish besties, and welcome back to my channel. Grab a drink, sit down, let's get cozy and talk about my new whimsigoth reading era. I decided it was due time for me to do a deep dive introspection on not only my reading taste, but also my aesthetic in general. As you can see around me, I have a pretty strong aesthetic that leans more towards whimsical and cottagecore, but I'm finding myself still being pulled to more gothic and medieval elements. So I wanted to actually sit down and think about what I liked and what these things were at their core. So unfortunately, I have been spending a lot of my days non-stop scrolling on social media, and I found myself gawking over people that have such specific aesthetics or that can mash up their favorite aesthetics, and I decided it was time for me to either define or create my own. Not only will this help me create and define my space or niche on booktube, but it will also help me choose my books with more thought and intention when going into them so I can get more quality reads. What I first did was I compiled a list of the individual things that draw me in. So I'm gonna read a few off of the list that I compiled and how this led me to think about defining my aesthetic as, at the basis, whimsigoth. So some of the things that I really love anything that has to do with creatures, so witches, fairies, vampires, werewolves. That is one of the main things that I like to read about, and one thing that I'm really interested in. Something I've been getting into a lot recently has been like lady knights and kind of like that medieval core. So I'm finding myself drawn to that while buying books, and I'm also finding myself drawn to that art and aesthetic a lot on Pinterest, which is where I do a lot of my like aesthetics research. I really love anything that can be defined as whimsical, and one of those things specifically is like talking or personified animals. I think that is such a fun concept. Stained glass windows and gothic castles will forever be one of my favorite things to look at. Some things that pull me more towards cottagecore is my love for mushrooms, beautiful wildflowers, gardens. I basically live in a cottage. And then the tones that I bring into that are my pinks, greens, and creams. You're gonna see around me I'm wearing cream. This couch is basically pink. My walls green. A lot of things in my house are green. Then some of the more general bookish things that I enjoy are books, iced coffees, blankets, stormy days, so kind of like just your regular cozy aesthetic. So when I deep dove into this a little bit more, I found out that, you know, I have a gothic dark backbone to what I enjoy. So even if something looks beautiful and whimsical, it has to have that deep, dark backbone or meaning to it. Then you add in the cottage whimsy, the enchanted forest magic with the talking animals. It basically feels like a woodland fairy tale. So it's basically if you took a medieval gothic fantasy, you added that soft cottage whimsy with the enchanted forest. It's raining outside, and you threw like a nice, soft, hazy, dreamy filter over everything. And I love that I can finally define this only just for myself, really. I don't feel the need to explain anything to anyone else. It's just for me because I do have anxiety and OCD, so it's really hard for me to get off a topic when I can't quite describe it or explain to someone what I'm feeling or thinking. So it's really exciting for me to be able to determine this about myself and finally kind of just define what I like more. So not only does this help me define myself, but I hope this can help you either define or create your own aesthetic. So like I said, I basically narrowed it down to 3 different aesthetics while doing my extensive research on Pinterest. I love Pinterest for this. 3 main kind of cores that I was following was like medieval gothic core, cottagecore, and whimsical. So when you combine all of these 3 things, you get this word whimsigoth. And I think it's so much fun to just be able to look that up and get everything that I love all in one. And I've been creating like a Pinterest board based off of this and adding my own flair to it with that more like fairy tale-esque feel. And I like to really describe it as basically if you took the like old Disney movie Sleeping Beauty with the dreamy haze, the beautiful pinks, the woodland creatures, and if you basically just mashed it up with Maleficent's vibe. Just mash those two things together and that is my core aesthetic. Now I want to explain how my books kind of define this taste as well and how it's just basically been hiding in me this whole time. I decided to pick like 5 of my favorite reads and see what they all had in common. Now you are going to see like one outlier, but the main genres that I love to read are fantasy, horror, and romance. I do obviously like thrillers and I will read basically any combination of those 3, but I really do love fantasy, romance, and horrors. I'm gonna go over 5 of my favorite books that kind of help define this taste. So one is Enchantra by Kaylie Smith. I did not love Phantasma as much as I loved Enchantra. The ending made me cry. I was with it all the way through. I loved the gothic castle vibes. So for those of you that don't know what this is about, Enchantra is about Genevieve, and she goes to seek out basically other paranormal children of a man that her mother was friends with because she wants to just see if anybody else had a childhood like hers. So she goes to this gothic manor with all of these children and she sneaks in because she's a specter, and she unknowingly winds up sneaking into the house on a day where the family made a deal with the devil, and they have a family competition where they need to hunt each other every year, and she has to marry one of the sons in order to enter this competition and basically not just be dead on sight. And so she enters this competition. There's a ball scene, there's wraiths, there's like almost like vampire-esque creatures, there's familiars, there's enchanted rooms. I love the whimsy but also gothic setting in this, so this one's like a perfect one to describe what I really enjoy in books. Another one is The Sword of Kaigen by Wang. This is just a very deep emotional read with, again, that dark kind of underlying backbone that I really love to have. This one is more emotional, but it's about a little boy who is growing up in this community that if a war happens, they are the first ones to encounter the enemies because they're right on the sea, and that's how they would enter the rest of the country. So the rest of the government bolsters this little town by telling them they're the best warriors ever, they're the youngest, and that's how they trick them into dying for the government. And the boy is completely unaware of this because it's basically like growing up in a small town that's 60 years behind all the technology outside of there. So it's more like a feudal Japan while everyone else is living in like a Tokyo city setting. And this kind of ends when a boy from like a very advanced city comes and starts telling him truths that he doesn't want to acknowledge. And we also get the mother's story, and she's from outside of this village, so she was like a crazy vigilante when she was younger, and she's dealing with the misogyny of this place because their mindsets are set so far in the past, so she's dealing with that misogyny even though she is a strong, powerful warrior herself. Another one of my favorites, this is a horror book. It's The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monika Kim. This one is one of my favorites because it has the best feminine rage story in it and the best kind of visceral physical representation of feminine rage. So we have our main character, her and her sister, their father left their mother and their mother's like a wreck, and she starts dating this kind of older white man, and the main character, her family is Korean, so she's dealing with the sexualization and fetishization, and she's also dealing with it firsthand in college. So she's dealing with, again, a lot of like misogyny and the sexualization of women in general. So she gets filled with so much rage that this rage portrays itself in a physical manner, which I won't spoil because I feel like it's a very important point of the book. I love the physical representation of that feminine anger that she has. That probably is like one of my favorite books of all time. I really need to do a reread soon because I just love it so much. Another one of my favorites is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. I love Grady Hendrix. I think he can take an era in time and set such a perfect vibe for it. So this one is based in the 70s where if young women out of wedlock got pregnant, they would send them to wayward houses where they would have their baby in private. They would put it up for adoption. They would go home and it would just be like they went to a summer camp. So we have our main character that goes and she meets 3 other girls at this wayward house that she bonds with, and they meet a librarian librarian from like a library bus that comes to the Wayward house, and they start getting involved with witchcraft and it doesn't go like they want it to, and there are implications. So this is another one where there is like slight feminine rage in it, not necessarily feminine rage, but it goes into women not having knowledge of their own. So this is a huge one of like knowledge is power, and if you give a woman that knowledge, she will become powerful. So I really love that one. It's like 70s witch Stevie Nicks vibes, and that's one of my favorite eras and one of my favorite vibes. So that one is perfect. Again, you've got like the dark culty witch vibe with like the nature and beauty and feminine power. So that's another one that really represents me. And then another one just to throw in there that's really fun and it still has emotional themes is Heated Rivalry by Reid. I watched the show like 3 times. I read the first book and I'm going to read the second one soon. More of a read that defines my taste in romance with slow burn, yearning, extremely emotional, still a little bit on the darker side with the way their reality is, but I really love the emotions of that one. It makes me feel like they're real people. So that's where that one gets me, is like that emotional aspect. But those are just 5 of my favorite books that define my taste basically. I wanted to just mention some books that I'm really excited to read just quickly. The first one being The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. That's gonna give, I actually have it here with me. This is going to give the perfect gothic vibes just by looking at it. I know there's like a talking gargoyle in this as a side character. So again, that personification of something that's a little more whimsical, anything with swords, and I know she's not like a lady knight, but she still like reminds me of a lady knight. There is a knight in this. She's a seer. We have that magic, that darkness, because her other seers slash like oracles are going missing. So I'm really excited for this one. Another one is The Second Death of Locke by V.L. Bolavino. That's another one that's going to just be like lady knight, magic, dark, gothic. I'm so excited for that one. Another one is The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow. Again, beautiful lady knight, more of an Arthurian tale. We have a man that's going back in time that kind of fell in love with her through learning about her through history, and he gets to save her from her tragic end over and over again. So that yearning over like many generations or many years, many timelines, many lives. I love that. The Once and Future Queen is another one I'm very excited about. She goes back in time again to another Arthurian legend. So I'm very, very excited for that. One that I'm starting soon is Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. So I don't know the source material for Macbeth by William Shakespeare, but I know that this is going to be a tale of a woman that doesn't want to be married, but she's doing what she has to do, and she's also using like her witchcraft, but there's also some like occult elements with her husband. So again, just going to be another beautifully written gothic tale. Then if you go for more of a cozy, witchy read that I'm very excited to read, that's Uncharmed by Lucy Jane Wood. So it's basically just a girl that's trying to rediscover her self-love. She lives in a little cottage with her little witch hat, her cat, her books, just like a perfect cozy witchy vibe, which is also another one of my favorite things. If you can't tell, witches are a huge important theme in all of this. I love it so much. I have for a very long time, so that's very exciting. Another huge one is vampires. I'm definitely going into my like creature feature era. So I wanted to just discuss some future channel plans. So I want to do some kind of reading challenge series where I'm tackling my TBR. I have a huge physical TBR that I don't want to talk about, but we need to tackle her, or at least start tackling her. So I'm going to be coming up with some sort of like series where I'm tackling my TBR. And then I really like to do some more cozy reading vlogs of me reading, giving you my thoughts in the moment, and doing reviews on the books as I go. And then another one, I really want to do some specific recommendation videos for you guys, kind of like books that feel like a certain vibe, and I'm really excited for all of these things. I hope this video helped you understand me a little bit more, understand what you're gonna get from this channel. If you guys made it this far, let's leave a little like sword emoji in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for future content. Thank you guys so much for being here and watching. Okay, love you, bye.